November 24th, 1899, Volume 3. Luisa wants to receive the bitternesses of Jesus. This morning my sweet Jesus came and transported me outside of myself. Now since I saw him all full of bitterness, I prayed him and I prayed him again to pour it into me. But as much as I prayed, I could not manage to obtain that he would pour his bitternesses into me, although, as I would draw close to his mouth to receive his bitternesses, a bitter breath would come out. While I was doing this, I saw a priest who was dying, but I could not recognize well who he was, because I had another intention to pray for a sick priest, but not recognizing him as that one, I got confused whether it was him or someone else. So I said to Jesus, "Lord, what are you doing? Don't you see how much scarceness of priests there is in Karato, that you want to take more away from us?" And Jesus, not paying attention to me and threatening with his arm, said, "I will destroy them more." November 24th, 1903, Volume 6. How Each Word of Jesus is a Link of Grace. Continuing in my usual state, I saw blessed Jesus in my interior for just a little, and as if he wanted to continue removing doubts from me, he told me, "Daughter, I am the truth itself, and falsehood can never come from me. At the most, it is something that man does not comprehend. And I do this to show that if one does not comprehend his word well, how can he comprehend the Creator in everything? However, the soul must correspond by putting my word into practice. In fact, my words are many links of grace that come out of me and are given to the creature as gift. If she corresponds, she connects these links to the others which she has already acquired. But if she does not, she sends them back to her Creator. Not only this, but I speak only when I see that the creature has the capacity to receive that gift, and corresponding to me, she acquires not only many links of grace, but also many links of divine wisdom. And if I see them linked with correspondence, she disposes me to give her yet more gifts. But if I see that my gifts are sent back, I withdraw, keeping silent. November 24th, 1904, Volume 6. In order to give and to receive, it takes union of wills. Being all afflicted and oppressed, and seeing good Jesus dripping blood, I said, "Blessed Lord, what about me? Don't you want to give me at least one drop of blood as remedy for all my evils?" And he said to me, "My daughter, in order to give, it takes the will of the one who must give, and the will of the one who must receive. Otherwise, if someone wants to give and the other does not want to receive, even though the first wants to give, he cannot give. Likewise, if the first does not want to give, the other cannot receive. It takes union of wills." Ah, how many times my grace is suffocated and my blood rejected and trampled upon. While he was saying this, I saw all people swarming inside the blood of sweet Jesus, but many would go out of it, not wanting to remain inside that blood in which all our goods and any remedy for our evils were enclosed. November 24th, 1922, Volume 14, Jesus before Herod. Effects of the word and of the gaze of Jesus. Jesus reprimands Luisa because she wants to keep these truths hidden. I was thinking of when my sweet Jesus was presented to Herod, and I said to myself, how is it possible that Jesus, who is so good, did not deign to say a word to him or to give him a glance? Who knows whether that perfidious heart would have converted at the power of his gaze? And Jesus, making himself seen, told me, my daughter, his perversity and the lack of disposition of his soul were such that he did not deserve that I look at him or say a word to him. And if I had done it, he would have rendered himself more guilty, because each word or gaze of mine are additional bonds which are formed between me and the creature. Each word is one more union, one more closeness, and as the soul feels looked upon, grace begins its crafting. If the gaze or word was sweet and benign, she says, how beautiful, penetrating, gentle, melodious it was. How not love him? If then it was a majestic gaze or word blazing with light, she says, what majesty, what greatness, what penetrating light! How little I feel, how miserable I am, how much darkness in me before that light so blazing. If I wanted to tell you of the power, the grace, the good which my word or gaze bring, how many books would I make you write? See, then, how much good I have done to you in looking at you many times, in keeping you with me in intimate conversations. They have not been just words, but complete discourses. From this you can comprehend that the unions between me and you, the relations, the bonds, the closenesses are innumerable. I acted with you like a teacher who says only a few words to the others who want some direction from him, but spends the entire day with his own disciples, wanting to make of them as many teachers similar to himself. He speaks at length, he is always over them, and now he develops one topic, now he gives them a simile to make himself better understood. Nor does he ever leave them alone for fear that, getting distracted, they may waste his efforts, and if needed, he subtracts hours to his own rest in order to instruct them. He spares nothing, neither efforts, nor strains, nor sweat, in order to obtain the intent that his disciples become masters. So I did with you. I spared nothing. With others I had just words. With you, discourses, long teachings, similes, at night, during the day, at all times. How many graces have I not given you? How much love, to the point of not being able to be without you? It is because of the great design I have made upon you. This is why I gave you much. You then, in all gratitude, would want to keep what I have told and given you hidden within yourself, and therefore deny me the glory I would receive by manifesting it? What would you say of that disciple who, after his teacher has reached the point of making of him a master with many toils, would want to keep for himself the education he has received, without imparting it to others? Would he not be ungrateful and cause of grief for his teacher? What would you say of the sun, if after I gave it so much light and heat, it would not want to let this light and heat descend upon the earth? Would you not say to the sun, it is true that you make a good impression, but it is not good that you keep it for yourself? The earth, the plants, the generations await your light and your heat. They want them in order to receive life and fecundity. Why do you want to deprive us of such a great good? More so, since in giving them to us you lose nothing. Rather, you acquire more glory, and everyone will bless you. Such are you, and even more than sun. I have placed in you so much light of truth about my will that more than sun, it would be enough to illuminate all, and to do more good than the sun itself does to the earth. I myself and the generations await that this light be unleashed from you, while you think of how to hide it. And you almost afflict yourself if authoritative people want to occupy themselves with putting it out. No, no, this is not good. I felt I was dying in hearing my sweet Jesus, and I felt even more guilty because during these days, since one of my writings had been withdrawn without achieving the purpose for which it had been released, that is to publish it, I had felt great satisfaction. Oh, how bad I felt in being reproached so severely, and wholeheartedly I asked for his forgiveness. And Jesus, to calm me down, blessed me, telling me, I forgive you and I bless you, but you will be more attentive and will not do it any more. November 24th, 1923, Volume 16, The Story of the Divine Will. The Most Holy Virgin made all the acts of the divine will her own. In this way she prepared the food for her children. This is why she is Mother and Queen of the divine will. Luisa must do the same for the work of the Fiat. I was doing the hour of the Passion in which the sorrowful mamma received her dead son into her arms and placed him into the sepulchre. And I was saying in my interior, My mamma, together with Jesus, I place all souls into your arms, that you may recognize them all as your children, inscribe them one by one into your heart, and place them in the wounds of Jesus. They are children of your immense sorrow, and this is enough for you to recognize them and love them. And I want to place all generations in the supreme will, so that no one may be missing, and in the name of all, I give you comfort, compassion, and divine relief. Now, while I was saying this, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior and told me, My daughter, if you knew with what food my sorrowful mamma nourished all these children. And I, what was it, O my Jesus? And he again, Since you are my little one, chosen by me for the mission of my will, and you live in that fiat in which you were created, I want to let you know the story of my eternal will, its joys and its sorrows, its effects and its immense value, what it did and what it received, and the one who took its defense to heart. Little ones are more attentive in listening to me because their minds are not filled with other things. They are as though empty of everything, and if one wants to give them other food, they feel disgusted, because being little, they are used to taking only the milk of my will, which, more than a loving mother, keeps them attached to its divine breast to nourish them abundantly. And they remain with their little mouths opened, waiting for the milk of my teachings, and I amuse myself very much. Oh, how beautiful it is to see them now smiling, now rejoicing, now crying in hearing me narrate the story of my will. Well, then, the origin of my will is eternal. Never did sorrow enter into it. Among the divine persons, this will was in highest harmony, or rather, it was one. In every act it issued forth both ad intra and ad extra. It gave us infinite joys, new contentments, immense happiness. And when we wanted to deliver the machine of creation, how much glory, how much honor and harmony did it not give to us? As soon as that fiat was unleashed, this fiat diffused our beauty, our light, our power, order, harmony, love, sanctity, everything, and we remained glorified by our own virtues in seeing through the fiat the blossoming of our divinity concealed in the whole universe. Our will did not stop, swollen with love as it was. It wanted to create man. And you know his story, therefore I move forward. Ah, he was the one who caused the first sorrow to my will. He tried to embitter the one who loved him so much and who had made him happy. My will cried more than a tender mother who weeps over her son, crippled and blind, and only because he withdrew from the will of his mother. My will wanted to be the first agent in man, if for no other reason, to give him new surprises of love, of joys, of happiness, of light, of riches. It wanted to give, always. This is why it wanted to act. But man wanted to do his will and broke it from the divine. If only he had never done that. My will withdrew, and he fell into the abyss of all evils. Now, in order to rejoin these two wills, one was needed who would contain a divine will within himself. Therefore, since I, eternal Word, loved this man with an eternal love, we decreed among our divine persons that I was to take on human flesh in order to save him and rejoin the two broken wills. But where to descend? Who was to be the one to provide her own flesh for her Creator? This is why we chose a creature who, by virtue of the foreseen merits of the future Redeemer, was exempted from original sin. Her will and ours were one. It was this celestial creature that understood the story of our will. We narrated everything to her as to a little one, the sorrow of our will, and how ungrateful man, by breaking his will from ours, had constrained our will within the divine sphere, almost hampering it in its designs, preventing it from communicating to him its goods and the purpose for which he had been created. For us to give is to make ourselves happy, and to make happy the one who receives from us. It is to enrich without being impoverished. It is to give what we are by nature, forming it within the creature by grace. It is to go out of ourselves to give what we possess. In giving, our love pours itself out, and our will makes feast. If we were not to give, why would we form the creation? Therefore, just being unable to give to our children, to our dear images, was like a mourning for our supreme will. Just in seeing man work, speak, walk, without the connection of our will, because it had been broken by him, and that currents of graces, of sanctity, of science, and so forth, would have run to him had he been with us, but could not. Our will took the attitude of sorrow. Every act of creature was a sorrow for us, because we saw that act empty of divine value, deprived of beauty and of sanctity, completely dissimilar from our acts. Oh, how the celestial little one understood this great sorrow of ours, and the great evil of man in withdrawing from our will. Oh, how many times she cried hot tears for our sorrow, and for the great misfortune of man. Therefore, fearful, she did not want to concede to her own will even one act. And this is why she remained little, because her will had no life in her. So how could she grow? But that which she did not do, our will did. It raised her, all beautiful, holy, divine. It enriched her so much as to make her the greatest of all creatures. She was a prodigy of our will, a prodigy of grace, of beauty, of sanctity. But she always remained little, so much so that she never came down from our arms. She took on our defense. She repaid all the sorrowful acts of the supreme will. Not only was she completely in order with our will, but she made all the acts of the creatures her own, and absorbing into herself all of our will rejected by them, she repaired it, loved it, and keeping it as though deposited in her virginal heart, she prepared the food of our will for all creatures. Do you see then with what food this most loving mother nourishes her children? It cost her all her life, unspeakable pains, and the very life of her son, to prepare within her the abundant deposit of this food of my will, and to keep it ready to nourish all her children as a tender and loving mother. She could not love her children more. By giving them this food, her love reached the ultimate degree. Therefore, among the many titles that she has, the most beautiful title that could be given to her is that of Mother and Queen of the Divine Will. Now, my daughter, if my mamma did this for the work of redemption, you too must do it for the work of the Fiat Voluntas Tua. Your will must have no life in you. Making all of the acts of my will in each creature your own, you will deposit them into yourself, and in repaying my will in the name of all, you will form within you all the necessary food to nourish all generations with the food of my will. Every saying, every effect, every additional knowledge of it will be one more flavor that they will find in this food, in such a way that they will eat it with avidity. Everything I tell you about my volition will serve to whet their appetite, so that they may take no other food at the cost of any sacrifice. If a food were said to be good, to restore strength, to heal the sick, to contain all flavors, and even more, to give life, beauty, and happiness, who would not make any sacrifice in order to take this food? So it will be for my will. In order to make it loved and desired, the knowledge of it is necessary. Therefore be attentive and receive within you this deposit of my will, so that, as a second mother, you may prepare the food for our children. In doing so, you will imitate my mamma. It will cost you much as well. But in the face of my will, any sacrifice will seem nothing to you. Be little. Do not come down from my arms, and I will continue to narrate to you the story of my will. November 24th, 1930, Volume 28. How there is not one point in which the divine will does not exercise its operating act toward the creatures, and these receive them according to their dispositions. Jesus speaks of chastisements. My abandonment in the divine fiat continues, but my poor existence goes on very often amid the bitternesses of the privations of my sweet Jesus. And while I long for him, reaching the point of feeling life missing in me, because he is my life, nor do I know any other life or other pleasure but Jesus. Then, if he comes for a little, while I feel myself coming to life again, That breath of life that he gives me, he embitters, because he tells me nothing other than the great chastisements that divine justice keeps prepared, how all the elements will put themselves against man, the water, the fire, the wind, the rocks, the mountains, will change into deadly weapons, and strong earthquakes will make many cities and people disappear. And in all nations, not even our own will be spared. And then the revolutions in which they are and will be engulfed, and the wars that are about to break out, it seems that almost all will be caught in the net that they themselves are preparing. But he says this with such bitterness, and then he leaves me without my usual pains that he used to communicate to me. So while I was embittered, I continued my acts in the divine volition, and my sweet Jesus, making himself seen, told me, "My daughter, rise, come into my operating will." My will is immense, but in its immensity there is not one point in which it does not exercise special and distinct acts toward mankind. And even though my will is one is its immensity, one is its act. However, in its immensity it holds the order of all the effects that come out as acts from one single act, to pour themselves out toward each creature, who receives them according to her dispositions. If she is disposed to loving me, she receives the effects of the love that my operating will is pouring. If disposed to being good, she receives the effects of its operating goodness. If disposed to becoming holy, she receives the effects of its sanctity. So according to their dispositions, the immensity of my fiat pours itself, its different effects that convert for them into acts, over each creature. And one who is not disposed receives nothing, even though my divine will is always there as operating over each one of them. And since they do not want to receive the good it wants to give them, my justice converts these goods that the creature rejects into chastisements. This is the reason why my divine will is as though on the lookout from within the elements, to see whether they are disposed to receiving the good of its continuous operating, and in seeing itself rejected, tired, it arms the elements against them. Therefore, unforeseen chastisements and new phenomenon are about to happen. The earth, with its almost continuous tremor, warns man to come to his senses, otherwise he will sink under his own steps, because it can no longer sustain him. The evils that are about to happen are grave, otherwise I would not have suspended you often from your usual state of victim. Now the creature who enters into my divine will lets not one act escape her. She runs to each operating act of it, adores its acts, thanks them, loves them, and everywhere honors the supreme volition. She keeps them company, and in her littleness she would want to secure all of its acts with her little love. So only one who lives in it can defend the rights of a will so holy. Therefore, always in my will do I want you, and you never want to go out of it. November 24th, 1935, Volume 33. True love always calls him whom one loves, and it calls him within. How without the divine will everything is veiled. Example. My poor mind found itself under the impetuous waves of the divine volition, impetuous but pacific, bearers of happiness, so much so that the poor creature feels limited and incapable of being able to receive everything. And while I followed the acts of the Fiat, I arrived at the point of the creation of man, and I thought to myself, with how much love could innocent Adam love the Lord before sinning? And my beloved Jesus, surprising me, told me, "My daughter, he loved me so much, for as much as is possible for a creature. He was a complex of love. Not even one fiber was empty of love toward his Creator. He vividly felt, beating in his heart, the life of his Creator. Indeed, in every instant true love calls him whom he loves, and giving him his life with his love, he retakes for his own life him whom he loves. Now, my divine will, loving, finds in the creature itself the facility of its rule. Nothing opposes its dominion. Its noble place is as dominant king. It forms its yearned-for kingdom in her. When the creature loves me, however, much more as she can, not one void of God can be found in her. Rather, with her love, she encloses me in the center of her soul in a way that I cannot leave, nor can I free myself from her. And if I could leave, that which I can never do, she would come after me, without being able, neither I nor her, to separate from each other, because I myself am love. Therefore one who loves me truly can say, I have conquered he who has created me. I have him within me. I possess him. He is all mine. No one can take him away from me. Now, my daughter, the love in Adam before sinning was perfect, total. My will had its life in a way that he felt it more than his own life. As he sinned, the life of my Fiat withdrew, and we left him the light, because without it he could not live. He would have returned to nothing. In creating him, we acted like a father who places his goods and his own life in common with the son's own. Now this one's disobedience, he rebels against his own father. The father, with sorrow, is constrained to place him outside of his dwelling, not letting him possess either his goods in common any more, nor his life. But so much is his love, that even from a distance he does not let him lack the necessary things, the means of strict necessity, because he knows that if the Father withdraws himself, the life of the Son is finished. So my divine will did. It withdrew its life, but it left its light as help, support, and as necessary means, so that its Son would not perish completely. Now, by withdrawing its life, all the things and works of God remain veiled for man. He himself veiled the intelligence, the memory, the will. He remained like those poor unhappy dying ones who, covering the pupil of the eye with a thin veil, do not see the life of the light clearly any more. My divinity itself, in descending from heaven to earth, veiled itself with my humanity. Oh, if creatures would possess my will as life, immediately they would have known me, because it would have unveiled who I was. My volition in them, that same divine volition in me, they would have immediately known and loved. They would have remained around me, nor would they have been able to separate from me, recognizing me under the likeness of their covering, the eternal Word, he who loved them so much that he clothed himself as one of them. In fact, I would have no need to manifest myself. My will residing in them would have unveiled me, nor would I have been able to hide myself. Instead, I had to tell them who I was, and how many did not believe me. Therefore, even to such that my will does not reign in creatures, everything is veiled. The sacraments themselves, that more than a new creation with so much love I left in my church, are veiled for them. How many surprises, how many beautiful secrets and marvelous things A veiled pupil impedes one from understanding, from seeing, from enjoying. More so because it is the human volition that forms this veil and impedes her from seeing the things that are in herself. Therefore, my will reigning in the creature as life removes this veil, and all things will be unveiled. And then they will see the caresses that we make them by means of created things, the kisses, the loving embraces. In each created thing they will feel our ardent heartbeat that loves them. They will see our life flow in the sacraments in order to continuously give itself to them, and they will feel the need of giving themselves to us. This will be the great prodigy that my divine will do, to break all the veils, to abound with unheard of graces, to take possession of souls as its own life in a way that no one will be able to resist it, and so it will have its kingdom on earth. Jesus, hurry and complete what you say and want, and may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. End of November 24th. Fiat.